What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Six Tips at 6 Central. We're actually doing it 1:30 Pacific and 4:30 Eastern today because Luke and I have some other plans. But today we're going to go over 6 tips to help you with USPS shipping or just shipping in general for eBay. And Luke's going to kick it off with his first tip. We get straight into it. Luke, what's going on? How's your day? And first tip.
Yeah, day's going well. Wrapping up a great weekend. Had our meetup yesterday, so just kind of flying high off of that. Yeah, I'll jump in right away with the tip, and we'll get rolling here. So first one, and actually, well, I guess for those of you who don't know who we are, so I am a part-time eBay seller and a full-time corporate finance analyst. I have a channel, Endless Entrepreneurs, where I track my journey. I've been selling for about 3 to 4 years, pretty seriously on eBay. So with that, my first tip is have a shipping strategy built around your weight thresholds. And what I mean by that, just to kind of dive a little deeper and get more depth on that statement, is 16 ounces, and I'm talking from a clothing perspective primarily, is kind of your cutoff, right? So 16 ounces and below, you're going to be able to ship first class. And 16 ounces and above, you need to look at other solutions, whether it be flat rate tools or just standard priority. And, when I look at being a clothing seller and I look at the sourcing that comes with that, being able and being acutely aware when you pick up an item of, is this going to be 16 ounces or less or not, is huge in what items you pick to source and whether they're profitable, and really whether they fit your model for your business. And so, for me, there's a couple different options when it comes to combating anything over a pound. And I'm going to speak just to clothing. I'm going to let Chris touch more on kind of the hard goods stuff because he has a lot more experience than I do. But from a clothing perspective, basically all my shirts, lightweight pants, like women's pants, and some sweaters will go less than 16 ounces. And all I have to do is put them, and this is my recommendation, this is what I do, in one of these 12 by 15 poly mailers. They're self-seal. If you want to put them in, I put all mine in a clear poly, and then in there, that's just preference. You don't have to. But this handles anything, and you print the label for 16 ounces and less. And that's how I clearly take the bottom half of my inventory for my strategy. And then the top half, I just use a couple basic tools. Any of the priority boxes, which Chris has got right there. So that's a shoe box, Chris?
This is a medium flat rate.
That's a medium flat rate, okay. So and his is self-seal. This is a shoe box, which, guys, these are kind of all the same. So this will be calculated off weight. So over a pound, a shoe box, the regular priority. And then your flat rates, you're paying a fixed rate. And then the last one is just a regional box, which a lot of people have questions on. There's regional A and regional B. And without going too crazy deep into it, if you hit the change weight and dimensions on your shipping area, it will show you what's the cheapest option. So you can figure out if this is a good fit for you. And I guess if we don't talk about the poly mailer, Chris, that would fit. So you have the padded flat rate, which is probably one of the most popular for clothing sellers over a pound.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to let Chris kind of jump in and talk about maybe more of the hard goods things and, piggybacking off that strategy because he has a lot more value to add there.
The first tip that I'm going to give, which piggybacks on what Luke just said, is to carry a pocket scale. So I actually carry a scale with me that goes up to 10 pounds and it fits in my pocket. And that's just to give me an idea because at 8 ounces and under is $2.77. And it's like almost $1 more for an item, up to $2 more for an item between 8 ounces and 16 ounces. So I like to see where I'm at when I'm out there. And then also I have a tape measure so that I can see if it'll actually fit in the flat rate receptacle. Just to give you an idea, the padded flat rate envelope, which I don't have one with me, but Luke has one. He can hold it up real quick.
Well, these
you guys can
right
see
here.
that. That padded flat rate envelope for me, I can fit shoes size like 9.5 or 10 in there. Bigger than that, I can't. And I go to the USPS shoebox, which Luke has. I have one here too as well, which I'll show you guys. But it's important to look at the dimensions when you're buying items in the States and take advantage of these flat rate boxes, because when items arrive in 2 to 3 days, customers are super happy. You're almost at the Amazon level of 2 days prime. So if you really got to understand your weight and dimensions. So I carry a pocket scale and a tape measure. That's my first tip.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And just kind of piggy, I'm going to keep kind of adding on to this. This one, the first tip for both of us, I think we can talk about for a little longer than the other ones because it's really important. And you know, when you're looking at priority versus first class, it's several days difference. You know, first class is typically 3 to 5 days, whereas priority is 1 to 3. So it's a huge difference. And when you're able to save yourself money, but also get the item to the buyer quicker, you're just winning all the way around. And that, Chris, that's an awesome tip about the scale and the measuring. I don't do either of those, and I probably really should, especially when it comes to shoes now that I'm getting more into shoes. I don't do as much hard goods, but if I did, that would be a must, right? Because as you look at hard goods, especially the dimensions, knowing what box you can fit in, it's probably huge for you, right, Chris?
Absolutely. And so the scale that I use is a Triton T2, which I'll put a link in the description for you guys, but it's pretty small. It's about the size of a wallet. It weighs up to items up to 10 pounds. And also, I did sell a lot of Pokemon cards. I haven't been selling a lot recently, but more valuable cards weigh more. So I have this is basically used to weigh jewelry, and it goes up to 10 pounds, but it's very sensitive and helps me measure things up to a gram. Because if you are out there in the wild looking for things, you know, I don't sell silver or gold, but that's also something that you can use to really see if it's authentic or not. You can weigh the item and get an idea of what items weigh. But yeah, having the tools is super necessary. I'm actually in the market for a fanny pack to put all this stuff in. So if anybody in the audience has something like that, reach out to Luke and I. I'm not ashamed to carry one when we're out there in the wild.
I love it. I can't say enough how awesome the tip is. I never even thought about bringing something like that, like a micro scale with me for. I mean, it's such a simple idea, but I've never even thought about doing that. So that will be on my list. I will be looking at your link, Chris, so make sure it's in the video because I'll be ordering one. Do you know about how much they run? How much they ran you?
Sorry guys, you weren't able to see it. I gotta go back and do it. But these cost about $10.
That's it? Oh my goodness. That's a no-brainer.
Yep, no brainer.
Awesome. That's an awesome tip. All right. Well, I'm gonna jump right into tip 2 then. I mean, we're cruising right along. So this is a real basic, and a lot of people are good about this, especially Amazon sellers seem to be better about this than eBay sellers. And I'm guilty of running out of these because I don't vocalize it enough. But if you're not already letting anyone you know that's close to you see on a regular basis to save all of their packing supplies that they get from packages they order for you, you're really costing yourself a lot of money in the long run. And I can't tell you how much bubble wrap I've wasted on rolls that I have because I just didn't have other like things lying around that I should have for small packages. Like I don't ever want to be having to use expensive rolls of bubble wrap unless I absolutely have to, when you can be getting pieces of bubble wrap, the little air pockets from Amazon, peanuts. I mean, even if you really need to, you can do newspaper and wad it up and put it in a plastic bag and tie it off for void. But I think that leveraging the people around you to collect that stuff, I mean, and if you've been selling long enough, you know that stuff's expensive. Like if you go to buy it in a store, like it's not cheap. And so when you can kind of hack at that and make sure that everyone's saving it for you, and just make sure like you go pick it up for them, like from them. Don't make that, like that's the other thing is people are much more apt to save it for you when they know you're going to be prompt to come get it. When people get really frustrated, and I'm guilty of this as well, is they save a bunch for you and you never pick it up, and then it ends up being a huge pile and it's in the way in their house and they're kind of ticked off because it's like, man, I could have been throwing this away the whole time or whatever. So just also make sure you're prompt and when you do ask them that you're picking it up all the time. But especially for hard goods, I mean, for shoes and electronics is what I've been kind of running into being low on, and so I've started to stock up a little more lately. Do you do something similar, Chris?
That's a great tip. So when you are getting supplies from friends and family, also if you're just getting started on eBay, I think it's important to start shopping on eBay, just to get an idea of how other sellers do it. When you receive the shipping supplies from other people who mail you things, you get an idea of how they package it. You can recycle the same goods. I pretty much buy everything on Amazon and eBay, even if I can go get it at the store, just because I'm curious how other sellers do it. And you can keep all those supplies. Some people dumpster dive. I haven't done that, but I've also gone to Michael's to look for a frame box, and I went there and I said, hey, I'm shipping a painting. Do you guys have a frame box I can buy? And they said, we just have one that you can have. We normally throw these away and break them down. So whenever I'm shipping golf clubs, I go to Golf Galaxy and ask for golf boxes. I'm looking for free boxes because they can add up. You can pay up to $10 for a specific box at a UPS store or FedEx. Those are the worst places to buy a box. You want to go to like Walmart or Home Depot or uline.com or your friends to get the cheapest supplies possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of add on to that, I've a couple times had to go to like one of the like UPS stores to make a box for you kind of thing because I was being lazy. And it's like the amount of money they charge you to do that is absurd. I mean, it's really, really expensive, and you're just killing your margins if you're not thinking ahead to stock up on this stuff. And I think that's a really awesome tip to go to the stores where the similar products are sold, because that's all they do, guys. They break the boxes down and put them in the dumpster. Like that's what happens over and over. And if you get a good enough relationship, you can just let them know, like, hey, every week I'll stop by and pick some up, especially if it's an item you sell a ton of. Like you should be frequenting those stores that sell similar items to try to get those size boxes because it can save you a ton on margin on the back end. So great tip, Chris. Well,
Cool.
actually,
I'm going to jump in.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to jump into my second tip, which is there's a link in my bio to the USPS free shipping supply store. So I think you should go there right after this call, if you haven't done this already, and order one of every single kind of box on the USPS site for free shipping supplies, just so you can get an idea of what shipping supplies are available for free from the post office. I mean, most countries do not have free shipping supplies from their government post office. It's a huge advantage for us having these free priority materials. Priority can cost a little bit more for hard goods than FedEx or UPS, but if you're just getting started, the free shipping boxes are great. There's also flat rate options, which can save you money, especially if you live on one of the coasts. I live on the West Coast. Luke lives on the East Coast. It's to our advantage to use the flat rate when things are heavy. And then really you need to understand how to use the flat rate envelope, which is something that you can fit a lot of items into it, including, I'm not sure if you could fit an entire suit in one, but close, I think. What do you think, Luke?
Suit. You're talking about the medium flat rates, Chris?
I'm talking about the padded flat rate envelope.
Oh, the padded flat rate. I can fit a suit jacket in one of those. I can't fit a full suit. Well, at least I haven't figured out a way to. But you can definitely fit almost any size blazer, sport coat, in one of those padded flat rates. You just gotta. Well, it takes a little persuasion sometimes, but you can definitely get it in there. And yeah, when you're absolutely right. When you're going east to west coast, like it's a difference of like $13 versus $650 for that. So I mean, you're having your shipping cost and adding that money directly back in your pocket. So I think that's an awesome tip. And like Chris said, if you haven't seen every single type of free box they have to offer, not ordering it puts you at a huge disadvantage because you aren't able to figure out what fits best for the items you're selling. And I'm just going to admit this right now. I think I have in a previous video. Like I went for like 3.5 years without ever using a regional A or regional B box, which means I was shipping all my blazers. If I couldn't fit them flat rate, then they were going priority, super expensive. When regional A, like just an example, shipping a blazer for me that let's say is 3 pounds to the West Coast is like $12 to $13 for me with the eBay discount. Priority, just straight priority. If I put in a regional A box, that's usually $9. So that's like a $4 difference going that way. So just keep that in mind, guys. Like make sure you're exposing yourself and trying these things because you're leaving a lot of money on the table by not understanding what dimensions are available to you. And so that's a great tip.
Also, you guys may be limited on space like I am, so I have a reminder set in my phone to reorder supplies every 2 weeks based on what I need. So instead of ordering way too much and having it stack up and waste valuable space in your area, maybe set up a reminder to order flat rate envelopes. There's also a limit. If you don't have a commercial account with USPS, you can only order so many free supplies. And so as your volume grows, make sure you sign up for a commercial account. It's free, and you can order as many supplies as you want without any restrictions. And also, one more thing, just to plug, don't steal USPS supplies. I think it's a federal crime. They actually mark the insides of the boxes, so don't get the free boxes and try to turn them inside out and use them for different types of shipping. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. So just use it for what they're supposed to be used. Also, real quick on the flat rate, you can't modify the box or the envelope if you want it to still qualify for flat rate. And you can't use a flat rate priority box to ship parcel post or express. You have to use it for the specific type of shipping that's on the box.
Yeah, those are two really important points. Is you can't repurpose the free supplies from the USPS for other things. I mean, I don't know how they enforce it, if when they enforce it, those type of things, but I do know, like you said, like it is a big deal. It's a serious issue, especially because basically our government's providing us something for free, and you abuse that, and you're going to have issues. So definitely don't do that, and make sure that don't confuse flat rate priority from regular priority, because you're going to end up costing your buyer money most likely. Because what will happen is when you mix them up and send it, whatever the delta is, they're going to pass that on to the buyer, and the buyer's going to have to go to the post office, pay the delta just to get their package. And that's pretty much a sure way to get negative feedback from your buyer. So just that's a great tip, Chris. I'm glad you brought that up.
Do you want to hop into your third tip? We'll answer a little bit more specifics on regional A and B at the end.
Yes, yeah, and actually it's funny because at the meetup yesterday, we had a lot of people ask about the regional A's and B's and the difference, and so yeah, we'll spend some time on that at the end for sure. And save your questions, guys. Just bold them in question, say question, and then whatever it is, or the question marks. Once we're done with our tips, we'll definitely address them. So I will. Here's my last tip: is never ship with a service that's slower than what you advertised. And what I mean by that is, if when you made your listing, you said it was going priority, don't ship it first class. So even if you made the mistake, and I've done this before, I forgot to change. I sold similar on a shirt. For whatever reason, I had it priority. I didn't have it first class. It was under 16 ounces. I ship it first class. It gets there in 5 days. They're expecting it in 3. I got negative feedback, a complaint from the buyer, and it was not a good experience. It was very early on in my selling career, and I haven't made that mistake since. But just make sure that whatever you're putting in your listing, you're being very careful about which one you're signing. And if you happen to make that mistake, you just got to take it on the chin and ship it the way you said you were going to ship it. So just, and you can offer multiple options. I haven't personally done that. I offer just one. I pick up my daily listing, but you do have the ability to have the buyer pick which they want. But I'm not going to comment too much on that because I don't have a lot of experience in it, and I don't want to give misguided advice on that. But that's just, please make sure that you stick with what you say you're going to ship for. I know that I've heard some stories about people doing like FedEx Spark Post because it was cheaper when they said it was priority, and it's never worked out well when they do that. So just be very careful.
Also, guys, if you're going to use a ground service, so USPS Parcel Post or FedEx Ground or UPS Ground, that's literally ground service, meaning it's going to travel by truck to the destination, which is going to take longer than by air. Priority mail, if I'm not mistaken, is flown to wherever the destination is, and that process is a lot less damaging on your item. If you're going to ship something USPS Ground or FedEx Smart Post, which is a dual FedEx USPS package, or UPS Ground, make sure you package really, really well, because it's really, really easy to get those items damaged because they're being shipped amongst really, really heavy items with people that are potentially throwing your package. So just make sure you package it really, really well. If it's going FedEx Smart Post, for me, I've had more items damaged with FedEx Smart Post than any other service. So I try to avoid it if I can. And I actually offer on heavy items both the priority option, a parcel post. I offer actually every option. Yes, UPS Ground, FedEx, but I want them to not pick Smart Post if possible, even though it's the cheapest, because for me, I've had the most items damaged when I ship it that way.
Oh, that's good. It's really good.
I can jump into my third. You want me to go in?
Yeah, go ahead. All
right, cool. So my third tip is to actually build a box inside a flat rate envelope. If you guys didn't know this, you can ship a mug inside a flat rate padded envelope, but I recommend you actually build a box around it, not using free USPS supplies, but using other boxes. Wrap your mug really well in bubble wrap, and then build a box around it, and then slip that box inside the flat rate envelope, and that way you can ship it for $6.50 for a mug, which is going to be a lot more affordable than shipping it a 2-pound priority box. So we'll probably have to make a video separately. I really want to make a video with Luke on the most durable box we can build inside of a padded flat rate, and see if we can like throw it across the street and see if it won't break. So I'm curious because lots of people like to sell mugs.
Yeah.
because they're just so abundant.
Yeah,
What do you think, Luke?
absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like a good challenge. I think that we could come up with a lot of ways to try and break it. It'd be fun. Sounds like a good challenge. No, I think that tip's great. I think that's also just being very creative with the options you have, right? And you're working within the confines of the rules that are set for you, right? So if the flat rate padded is whatever you can fit in it, it ships, right? Like, I mean, that's basically the rules with the padded flat rate. And you're actually doing the buyer a better service by making the box because you're protecting it that much more. And it actually probably slides in a little easier too. I've had issues when I have a poly bag or something tacky around my item, and then I try to slide it in that padded flat rate. Sometimes it catches and tears the envelope versus the smooth cardboard probably makes it easier to slide in too. So that's great. Do you sell a lot of mugs, Chris?
I did when I first started. Now it's not, the margin's not high enough because I want a $30 average selling price at least, and it's hard with mugs unless you're selling really rare ones, and those are relatively long tail for me at least. Some people sell a lot of mugs quickly. I don't know how they do that, but that is something. So guys, I think we're at the end of our 6 tips. So if you have any questions, throw them in the chat, and Luke and I'll be happy to dive right in there.
Absolutely. And hi to everyone. We haven't been ignoring your shout outs. We've just wanted to get the content out here first before we went into Q&A. So appreciate everyone stopping in. We got 75 watching live, so that's awesome. All right, let's see what else we got here. If you see one, Chris, grab it.
All right, so somebody had asked how to ship a long, skinny item, and I'll go and get the box right now. FedEx has these triangular boxes that you can ship posters or golf clubs in. I'm going to grab one real quick. During that, while I'm grabbing it, do you want to answer another question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find one.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. I guess I'll talk about regional A little bit while he's doing that. So the basic premise with shipping on eBay, just period, is that when you get to your shipping screen, you can click change weight and dimensions. It's a little highlighted button on there. And when you click change weight and dimensions, it will display for you every single shipping option that they offer. And you plug in your weight and the dimension, you hit calculate, and it will reflect the prices for every single one. And it's just a push button. And so it'll tell you if regional A is $1 cheaper versus regional B versus flat rate versus priority versus first class. And so really the reason why Chris that especially gives that tip of like have every box on hand. If you have every box on hand, then when you get to that screen, you know the weight and dimensions, you hit the refresh and it tells you which one. Now it's a matter of just going and grabbing that material. So whether it's just your poly bag, or if it's going to get a regional A or going to get the shoebox to do just a regular priority, it tells you right there which one you should pick that's the cheapest, that fits in the shipping parameters that you promised the buyer. So, I mean, I think kind of pairs back to his tip he made, you know, when it comes to regional A and those other things. Use the change weight and dimensions feature and look at all the options available to you. Go ahead, Chris. Fire away.
Sorry for the camera, guys. This is the USPS medium mailing tube box. So it's used to ship posters, golf clubs, baseball bats. Shout out to Cincinnati Picker. He just did a video on how to buy and sell baseball bats. So if you guys want to learn how to do that, I want to learn how to do it. And these are awesome. So again, order one of every single box. It's going to help you guys out a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you do that, guys, you're going to start to narrow in on what you use all the time. And then it becomes easier to stock up too. All right, yeah, let's jump back into questions here.
So Sci-Fi had asked explaining how to pack breakables. So for me, the way I pack, let's say for example, I'm shipping a receiver or a record player, something fragile and large and heavy. I'm going to build basically 2 things to float the item in the middle of the package. So as a basic rule, if you double box something, it's going to be more protected. And if you double box 2 items and then you put bubble wrap or peanuts in between the first box and the second box, that's going to be the safest way to ship an item, in my opinion. It's the same concept behind building a box and putting it inside a flat rate. You're doing 2 boxes, 2 layers of protection. And ultimately, if there's a little bit of air in between, that's why people use peanuts and bubble wrap. That air can cushion a potential impact. And also, reusing packing peanuts that have been crushed will give you less safety than obviously a brand new packing peanut that hasn't been crushed before.
Yeah. And just to kind of add on to that, I mean, general rule of thumb is if on a first impact blow, like I'm just going to use this bottle, right? Like it's same type of consistency as like a ceramic mug, right? If me hitting this with that is going to break it, I need to add first a shatterproof layer, which is usually your bubble wrap, right? Bubble wrap around it. And then I'm adding something from it crushing, because now once the bubble wrap's around it, it still can crush. It might not shatter, but it could crush it if something heavy falls on it. Now you add that box, which is kind of the structure around it, which can handle the weight coming down on top of it. And so that's where like the bubble wrap, the box, and then putting it in whatever is the actual device that you're shipping is kind of the way to go. So I thought it was a great way to explain it, Chris.
On the regional A or regional B, there's actually a regional C as well. I don't know if you can still order the boxes, but what you want to do is when you're pricing your item, or when you're shipping your item, you can actually select in there. So how I price heavier items is calculated shipping. But then when I am actually shipping the item, that's when I research the regional A or B to see if there's a cheaper option. I'm going to charge the customer typically the actual retail cost of the shipping, plus potentially a shipping and handling fee, or a handling fee if it's a really heavy item. Over 10 pounds is going to take me some time to pack. I'll charge a handling fee. But typically, I'm figuring out whether to use the regional A or B item afterwards, not before I ship. But I do weigh my items and put that in the listing before. Luke, do you weigh your items before you put them online?
I don't, only because I'm only selling clothing for the most part. And with shoes, I pretty much just, for calculator, I just say everything's 3 pounds, and then it just kind of evens out at the end. One of the things that, like, just to go back and explain, I think this helped yesterday when we were talking through regional A boxes. So you're either shipping priority or you're not. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, is priority is a 1 to 3 day service with tracking and I think a small amount of insurance, like that already comes in. So what each of these boxes is a regional A versus a flat rate, is those are all priority options. So basically what you have done when you've selected priority, you've said to the buyer, I'm going to ship to you within 1 to 3 days. I'm going to provide tracking, and it's going to have a limited amount of insurance. As a seller, the advantage we get is, so once we've made that commitment, now we can pick from all of these different priority options based on what's cheapest to us. So that's where I think the confusion comes in. Everyone's, when do I use what? It's like, well, no matter what, if you're shipping one of these options, you're satisfying your priority commitment to the buyer. It's up to you which is the cheapest option for you to save the most money. So hopefully that makes sense to people. It actually took me a while to understand that when I first got into eBay, because I mean, there's a lot, and it can be very intimidating, especially for newer sellers. I mean, it was for me. So I definitely understand the questions around it.
We're going to have to do a round 2 because there's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Girl on Fire is asking, there are 2 models for shipping, either all calculated or your own flat cost for each. Or there's actually a third option, which is all free shipping. So how do you handle the cost of shipping on your item?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm glad you brought up the third option, because free shipping is an option. And I offer free shipping on 98% of my inventory currently. And I only charge shipping on shoes. And that's only because the weights, being on the East Coast, it just varies so much. If I get hit with a West Coast one, that I charge the calculated shipping on shoes. Everything else I offer free shipping. That's just how I handle it. I calculate in my price. And that's why when I say knowing the ounces of your item when you pick it up, like I know a shirt is going to ship for X versus a blazer, allows me to price my item appropriately to cover that shipping cost. So that is the model that I take. I know there are lots of reasons why you should or shouldn't do that. That's just what works for me, and everyone should pick what one works for them. So go ahead, Chris. I want to hear what you do.
I'm trying all 3. I have flat rate shipping in some items. Like, for example, I've tried a flat rate of $5 for jeans, even though there's no option to ship a 2-pound pair of jeans for $5, because I think people hear $5 and they think it's reasonable for shipping. I've also tried the actual shipping cost, which retail for a pair of jeans is like $7 or $8, which seems a little bit high. So sometimes when I charge calculated shipping, people still feel like it's too high. So I'm experimenting. I also really like offering free shipping and no best offer on items under $25. I decide what I want to get for the item, and I'll just set it and forget it, and hopefully it sells for that amount with the free shipping option. And on all heavy items over 4 pounds, I charge for shipping. So there's too much of a variance living in California, because it could be $20 to ship it locally, and it could be $80 to ship it to New York on a heavy item. So that I can't just like offer $40 and offer free shipping, because it's too big of a difference.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you're kind of hedging, and you're getting to test each one with each genre, which is a huge advantage to you. So I can appreciate that. Inks and Threads just said, can you ship priority in a standard poly mailer if it won't fit in a flyer envelope or the flat rate padded? Absolutely. And that's actually, and just to kind of answer, so this right here is the 12 by 15. So it's a self-seal poly mailer. You can get these like for 4 or 5 cents a piece when you buy them in bulk. You just print, if you select priority, it'll print a priority label for you. You can put a priority label on anything. It doesn't have to be a priority box. So that's a really good question, because we didn't really cover that, Chris. Okay, you can print priority for anything. It doesn't have to go in a priority USPS box. You just have to put the weight on it and select priority.
You can also order 9 by or 10 by 30. Is your poly mailer 10 by 13?
I do 12 by 15.
12 by 15. So you can order a 12 by 15 Tyvek USPS priority mailer for free also, but you have to ship that priority, even if it's under £1 and qualifies for first class mail.
That's the reason I don't use those. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but for me, it's like I do so much first class shipping that I use those poly bags for, that, I mean, I might ship 5% of the time I use a poly bag, it goes priority. So to have the other ones on hand, to know that and to use it, just for me, it's a time factor. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it makes it, I don't know, it just seems to be easier to streamline, just because the cost is so low. Like for 4 cents a piece, it's like, it's not.
Also, guys, if you have an eBay store today, you can order new supplies, because it's the beginning of the third quarter. I had forgotten that until I saw it on Instagram. Luke, have you already ordered your free supplies? And if not, what are you going to order?
So I order tape every single time, and it's mostly just because I feel like at some point I'm going to get to scale where I'm going to be shipping so many items, and I'm going to be using tape a ton. And tape is like the most expensive thing to buy, because all the other stuff I can pretty much get for free. And people save, like we talked about, saving the packing supplies. So for me, it's just like, it's the one less cost I have. And, packaging tape, like when I go to Target, packaging tape isn't cheap. Like you're talking like $5 a roll usually. How about you? What do you normally get?
I normally get the eBay poly mailers. So I've been getting those. I don't use that much tape except for when I ship heavier items, because most of my my flat rate items are self-seal. Gotcha. So I don't use a ton of tape. And the eBay envelopes, which look like this, are pretty nice. I mean, it's a little bit. You can order every size.
Okay.
You can order every size.
No, that's cool. So I hadn't thought about those, only because I bought in bulk all my supplies for the year. I bought 10,000 self-sealed 12 by 15s in like December of last year. So I haven't thought about that yet, but that's a really good idea. I mean, if I was to order something different than tape, that probably would be what I'd order, because I just use those so much.
Sci-Fi is asking, Poke Power is asking, where do we buy our polybags and bubble mailers? I buy mine either on valuemailers.com, eBay, or Amazon, depending on what's cheaper. So I like to shop around. How about you, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much bounce between Amazon and eBay. Although it's odd, Amazon has somehow gotten more as competitive as eBay with buying in bulk, which is odd, because eBay always was the cheaper option for me with poly mailers for probably the first like 3 years I sold on eBay. They just always were cheaper because everything was prime and marked up a bit. And now it looks like the prices have come down a bit. I don't know if it's just because they're trying to get more competitive, but I pretty much interchangeably do it. What really is the factor to me is if I run out of a supply because I forgot, I do Amazon because I need to get it here quick. versus if I have time, then I'll probably do eBay and try and shop for that very, very best price.
What are you using to print labels?
I use the Brother 550 QL. It's a very old label printer. It's the thermal label printer. I've had it for probably, gosh, I think I got it in like 2014, maybe 2013. I just buy the labels or buy the rolls of the thermal labels. So it's inkless. They're self-seal. They work really, really well, really easy. I bought it used for $50, like I said, 3.5, 4 years ago. How about you?
I actually use a laser printer still, so I'm still going strong on this super toner cartridge that I bought for $20 on eBay. So eventually I'm gonna switch to a thermal printer when this ink runs out, which should probably be in a month or two. So I should order it probably now. I'm a little torn between going a Zebra or a Dymo. Not sure which one I want to do. Both are great because you don't need to pay for ink ever again. You just pay for the special labels, or you can figure out how to get them for free if you have a commercial account with UPS or FedEx.
Right. Yeah, and this is about the size. I don't know if you guys can see. This is the size of the thermal label. I'm not sure I show an address, but oh well. That's the size. And it's self-seal. That's why I think you're going to love it, Chris, when you do go to it. It's just that extra ease. And I don't know if I've just had really good luck or if it's standard for all thermal labels that they just last that long. But like I said, I've had mine going on like almost 4 years and I haven't had an issue. I should probably knock on something because I'm probably going to have an issue tomorrow. But yeah, that's what I go with.
Also, Luke and I are both planning on, potentially doing wholesale or, larger items, and I'm going to switch to 3-inch tape. So that's why I'm not ordering the eBay tape. I don't want to go over the item twice. I just want a 3-inch layer of tape that's going to cover the whole thing eventually. So I'm going to order that in the future just to save time.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, actually. Let's see what else we have here.
Flippertools.com has offered some pretty cool advice. And so if you guys want to check out their channel, that would be great. We also have Thrifty Boss Babe in the chat. Laura just started her channel, so if you guys haven't checked it out, check out her channel. A link to Luke's channel is obviously in the description as well.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Check out as many other resellers as you can, guys. There's other related channels. I mean, you can't ever learn enough, and you can't ever get enough perspectives to help improve your business. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here.
I'm not seeing a ton of other questions.
How much is it normally to ship shoes? This is a good question because that's a very common thing people sell.
I'm gonna let you do that, Chris. You sell a little more shoes than I do, and then I'll fill in the gaps if need be.
I ship a lot of shoes FedEx SmartPost because they're not fragile, and so probably around $13 coast to coast. I'd say my average shipping cost for priority is around $11 in California, so a little bit expensive, but it's well under $10 locally in California, and obviously a big chunk of the population is on the West Coast. So I would say $10 to $12 average, mixed between the post office and FedEx SmartPost, depending on what's cheaper. Shoes are also not fragile, so I don't mind shipping them ground.
Yeah, I would say I've had similar experience. I would say mine's closer to like somewhere between like $7 to $12 ish. Very rarely do I get above that 12 or I was 13, 14 if I'm on the West Coast, but I don't have a ton of shoes either. And I would say as a whole, I have a lot lighter shoes. Like I've picked up a lot of more like outdoorsy type casual shoes that are a little lighter. I haven't got into as many heavy shoes yet, but yeah, it's definitely more expensive than shipping clothing, and it's definitely more expensive than shipping like even blazers a lot of times because you can't fit them in flat rates necessarily. Whereas I fit pretty much all my sport coats and blazers in flat rates. Someone asked, how much do you save with thermal printers? How expensive are thermal? I don't have an exact number for what you save, but the only expense I've had for 4 years now is buying the rolls of thermal paper to replace. And usually, if I remember, I could get 4 rolls. Like if I wasn't buying it in super bulk, I was getting like 4 rolls for, I want to say 4 rolls for like $28 or something like that, $29. and a roll would last me for, and I do about 200 plus packages a month, and a roll would last me for like 2 months usually. So I mean, you're talking $5 a month for a replacement. I mean, it's pretty cheap.
Sci-fi is asking items to avoid shipping for newbies. You need to be a little bit more specific. Do you mean like local pickup? I'm not sure. Or Luke, that's a good question actually. Do you do any local pickup on your items?
I do not do any local pickup. It's really just a preference. I, I don't like. I just, for me, eBay is so attractive because I can sell to my buyer. I don't have to ever see them. That sounds so like antisocial, but like I don't do Craigslist either. Like I don't sell on Craigslist. Like I just don't sell locally because I just don't like. To me, the time invested to do that isn't worth it. If I sold super high margin rare items where like I was flipping like 100 into like 1,000, then yeah, I probably might go down that route because doing that 20 times a year has a huge ROI. But selling something for 50 that I got for 10 locally, the amount of time it takes to meet them, to negotiate, to do all that stuff, it's just like I want to automate it. I work full time, so I just want to be able to come home, ship my stuff, be done with it, not have to interact with the people. So that sounds super like hermity, but it's true. How
I've
about you?
sold two IKEA furniture locally, and they had to come to me. So I was really lazy with that. I just said local pickup. Literally, I'm not meeting you halfway. You have this small window to come pick it up, or you don't even get it. I'll just repost it. So, and both of those items, I only offered local pickup because shipping was really high. It was a standing desk and a chair.
How did that go? How was the experience with it?
Excellent. They both came and picked up, and both I found at Savers. I don't get a lot of stuff at Savers, but I get furniture. Most of their stuff, I feel like they're overpriced, but I've been getting some small furniture like chairs or a standing desk. Both those items are very small for furniture wise.
Right. Very cool. All right. Got a few minutes left here. Take some more questions. Let's see.
Items to
Um,
avoid. Oh, what
I
items should
got
you
you.
avoid shipping if you're a beginner?
So I'll take a quick crack at this one. The reason I started selling clothing was because I was a beginner. So I had played around with electronics and things like that, and I got really frustrated with the whole trying to create boxes the right size experience. That was before I knew about like free supplies and USPS.com. Um, and so I actually started with clothing because it was just easy, right? Like it was either under 16 ounces or over, and I could put everything in a poly bag. So like I didn't have to pad anything up. So I would just say like pick a niche that you can automate your shipping process. So like that it's going to be in a certain weight range, that you don't have to protect it that much and you don't have to get too creative just to start. And then as you gain confidence, then you can start to grow in those other areas. I don't know, Chris, how do you feel about that?
I think it depends on your time. Like if you're gonna sell fragile items, don't sell fragile items if you're going to make the same profit as a non-fragile item. It needs to be worth your time to pack. Like this, despite these DVD and CD players and VCRs, the profit margin's insane. You buy it for $5, you can sell for 100, right? But it takes literally 10 times as long to ship. For me, it takes me half an hour to package one VCR properly, and that's a huge amount of time. And if I'm trying to value my time at $200 an hour, so I just spent $100 packing a VCR, which is technically not worth it. When a shirt, I'm packaging them like this when I list, so like it's just putting the label on it. It's like less than 1 minute, so it's interesting. I would say in the beginning, right now, I have more time than money, so it's okay. But later in the future, your time becomes so valuable. Shipping fragile items takes more time.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really awesome point that you made there about whether it's worth your time or not. Because when you talk about scaling, which is kind of what we've been focusing on, it's really hard to scale shipping one-offs all the time where you're taking a half hour per pop. Like it's just hard to. It's hard to scale that process. It's also the other additional time on those items is you have to test them, right? Like for me to list a shirt, I throw the shirt in the mannequin, I take pictures, so I'm inspecting it while I'm taking pictures, and then I list it. When you get a VCR, you need to test it thoroughly, right? Hook it up to whatever you need to make sure it's actually working, and then list it, and then spend all that time in the back end packaging it. So there's just, I'm not saying you should stay away from it, and I don't think people should not sell them because I think there's huge margins, and I just learned a ton about it from a guy yesterday at our reselling meetup. I just think if you're looking at your model, make sure it fits in with what you're doing. And like Chris said, early on, when you have more time than money, you should, because spending a half hour is still worth it to get the capital. But when you have more money than time, then that should flip, right? And then you should be only systematizing. I don't even know if that's a real word, but making everything systematic and process driven.
Yeah, Steven is making a great point that I can improve my process to pack and ship a VCR quickly. And that's just another thing, another thing to optimize. So, I mean, definitely you could take the time to do it.
Yeah, you always can improve your processes. I'm just saying the original question was, what should new sellers stay away from? And so I think that's kind of just coming full circle. Like those type of situations you want to stay away from early while you start to figure out eBay and figure out getting some momentum going. So
I just want to make the point that the three largest categories are clothing, electronics, and housewares. And all three of those have fragile types. Like if you're going to ship a suit with fragile buttons, you wouldn't ship that not in a box if it was really of concern. Any item, super expensive clothing item, you probably wouldn't ship in a poly mailer just because it's not worth it for it to get crumpled or wrinkled or a button to be damaged. I personally haven't shipped any clothing items recently that have been too scary to ship in a poly mailer, but there are potentially fragile clothing items.
yeah, and that's valid, right? Like when I sell a $150 suit, like it goes in a box. That doesn't go in a poly bag. I sell a $50, Hart Schaffner Mark suit that goes in a poly mailer or regional A box, depending on the price. So I mean, it depends. Like Chris is saying on the value of the item too, what care you take, and there are fragile items in every niche. Got some of these other questions here.
Aaron's asking if we sell on Amazon FBA. I am now that I'm a full-time seller. I am sending stuff into Amazon FBA. It's totally different, but I like to diversify my income streams.
Yeah, I don't at all. I'm pretty focused on just eBay, but it's only because of my time and I'm not full time. So I don't know where the future will be with whether I get on there or not. I just really enjoy selling clothing, which is why I pretty much stick to eBay. It's just kind of what I enjoy doing. So yeah, take a couple more, Chris, here. Let's say we got 100 people watching live, so hit that like button for us, guys, if you don't mind. I mean, hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. It's been helpful to me just even talk through it, and really appreciate the love there on that like button, especially for Chris's channel. We appreciate it.
And Luke and I both learn more than we give out actually on these on these videos, because there's so many questions coming in, and we're really trying to figure out what to do ourselves. We both have leading learner channels where we share what we do and improve as we go. We're not gurus. Let's see here. Yeah, if you guys can hit the like button, that would be great. And then let's take a couple more questions. Let's see.
I always look tired, by the way, whoever said that in the chat.
How rude.
You mean
Luke looks amazing.
I was blessed with dark circles under my eyes since the age of 6, so that's just the way it goes.
In the Sun by the Beach is asking what kind of housewares do we sell besides mugs. I like to sell appliances that don't involve water, because I don't know if items that have water rolling through them have mold. And so that's the only reason why I don't sell those types. Like I don't sell coffee makers because I don't understand how to properly clean them, but I'll sell knives, I'll sell cutting boards, I'll sell anything that doesn't involve water, basically.
Yeah, that's a great tip, actually. I wouldn't even thought about that with the water factor causing mold and things like that. That's a really good tip. I don't sell any housewares, and it's a really simple answer for me why I don't. It's not that you shouldn't, and I would encourage everyone to look at it, but everything that I choose to sell, I have to very carefully make sure it fits into a streamlined system, because I have limited time outside my job to build my business. And so what becomes a problem for housewares is becomes storage and systematizing my storage and making sure that I can streamline picking, packing, listing, all those things. And so I've stayed really narrowly in clothing because I've been able to streamline every type of it so far, with from start to finish of, pulling it, packing it, listing, all that sort of type of thing. So,
And I want to make a point that I have seen more part-time resellers doing clothing than any other category. So like, because of the time aspect, like there's so many haters that will say like, I only sell electronics that I make $100 profit on. Some people don't understand electronics or have the time to go out and meet the person, negotiate, or go to the garage show. There's so many things involved with selling electronics, but definitely the profit margins are there.
yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, especially early on, if you're trying to get capital, I mean, it might be a really good idea to do housewares, Chris, don't you think? Just because the price of entry is so cheap still, and they probably move a little faster if you get the right ones than, clothing does necessarily.
I would sell all your. I still stand by my idea that you should sell everything you own, because it's fun. You can start over and rebuy the stuff on eBay again. Housewares are housewares. Like, they actually have utility. Clothes, shoes, housewares. People use these things. They're gonna need them, right? So as cool as a retro metal chicken is from the 1950s, it's not useful, so it's gonna take longer to sell than something actually useful.
That's very valid. Huh. All right, let's take one more, Chris, and then wrap up.
Last one I'm going to take is it wise to sell stuff on consignment? I don't do that. I just buy it outright from my friends, or I don't sell it, just because I don't have consignment software. So it's really complicated for me to figure out what's selling, what's not selling. I'm not going to field any questions with them. I'm just going to either buy it from them for cheap or fair price. And with a friend, I'll pay more than from Goodwill. So if I'm going to sell for 130, I might buy for 80 from a friend, but I don't do consignment.
I don't have a ton of experience with consignment. I've only sold a few items for some people before, and it wasn't really consignment. I literally was just selling it for them, giving them 100% of the profit. It was more of just like a favor. I stay away from consignment for pretty much the same reasons I've stayed away from other things. It's just more of the process around it, the time it takes to do it. And then I'm just adding a layer of communication between myself and the end result, right? I have two people to manage now, the person I'm consigning with and the buyer. So I've stayed away from it. I think there's still a lot of money in it. I know a lot of people do it very successfully. It's just not for me.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, guys. I think this is time. So we have been on for an hour. Thank you very much for tuning in. Next week we're going to be on Luke's channel. If you haven't already, like and subscribe below. Check out his channel. And if you have any questions, you can comment below. I'm really good about answering questions, or email either one of us. And yes. Luke, what's the best way to find you other than the link below?
Other than link below, probably Instagram, Endless Entrepreneurs on Instagram. I've been getting a lot more active on there. Direct messages there. I usually answer 99% of them in a really reasonable time. So hit me up on there if you have any questions. And otherwise, we'll see you next week on my channel.
All right, guys. Have a great one.
See you guys.